Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm so glad that you could keep our appointment. Now, tonight's guest is Lutishia Lovely, aka Zuri Day, who will discuss her journey from illusion to enlightenment. Lutishia Lovely describes herself as a sunbeam and a favored divine daughter of the Most High, here to help heal, enlighten, and bring joy to the planet. A series of careers woven together through the world of words. Poet, actor, radio personality, and for the past 20 years, a best-selling, award-winning, full-time author of contemporary fiction, romance, and suspense, has given her an international platform to shine light on a variety of subjects, including religion, racism, social injustice, relationships, and the beauty and uniqueness of the melanated family. Her first series, Hallelujah Love, later shortened to simply Hallelujah, was groundbreaking and controversial, with titles such as Sex in the Sanctuary, A Preacher's Passion, and Reverend Feelgood. Her books quickly became fan favorites among readers and easy targets for religious persecutors. But on Undaunted, she tackled tough topics head on, mixed sex with scripture, and opened a space where it was safe to talk honestly about the complexities of life in the church. For the past 5 years, she's tapped into her bloodline of teachers, preachers, prophets, and seers, honed her skills as a life coach. Through various modalities such as energy healing, guided meditation, visualization, and intuitive consultation, she helps people tune in and turn on their own inner light and realize that the Savior they're seeking is in the mirror. In 2020, she received a spiritual mandate to help people break free from the bondage of religion and bring them into true relationship with the real Christ, the one within. She's also on a mission to reconnect her family with their indigenous roots and reclaim the land for all melanated clans. Listen, I need you to help me welcome for the first time, but I'm pretty sure not the last time, to Office Hours with Dr. J, Sister Lutishia Lovely. Hey sis, so you are rock with me. Wow, welcome. And I could have read more. On your bio, y'all. But listen, before we get any further, there's not enough of you on here because this is going to be a fire interview. Please share this video. Share the link. Let them know that there's a sister on with Dr. G that you're going to want to hear. Particularly your religiously constricted family and friends. Let them tune in and listen to what's going to be said. But Lutishia, it is such a pleasure to have you here on this platform. How are you?
Thank you so much. I am amazing, Dr. G, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this moment to be on this show. Like I was sharing a little bit before we jumped on, this is a crazy co-create that I didn't even know I was co-creating, and I'm sure you had no idea.
I absolutely did not.
Let me just tell you real quick. So what had happened was, it was a few months ago. I was listening to you, and I don't even remember who. I was listening to you talking to somebody. I don't even remember who because I watch you all the time, right? But whoever you were talking to at that moment, I said, kind of just like in a passing thought, like, oh, I would love to be on there right now, sharing, participating in whatever the conversation was, right? It was just a fleeting thought. It wasn't even a real thought like, oh, please, can I be on? It wasn't like that. I didn't meditate. I didn't visualize. It was just, I didn't even think about it, right?
Right.
But here, just a few months later, here I am. And what I realized, Dr. G, was that I was witnessing in real time the real times that we're in. I was witnessing this age of enlightenment. I was witnessing the restoration, the restoration of our superpowers as alchemists. And I was realizing the quickening. There's teachers and seers that say we're in the time of the quickening where things are manifesting very, very quickly. And so it reminded me that not only are we powerful, but that our thoughts in this season are going to manifest very quickly. So we want to be very thoughtful. We want to be very conscious of what we're thinking about, because truly in this season, what we're thinking about, we're bringing about. So I just want to share that with everyone listening as information and also as inspiration, because Dr. G, the other part of this co-create that I didn't even know I was co-creating was that I had stepped into my purpose in a new way. I had taken another level into my purpose and done something that Spirit had told me to do a long time ago. And so I really want to speak with the artist in particular, everyone in general, but particularly because I'm a creative artist. I want to speak to the artist, the person with the song, the person with the book, the person with a poem, the person who has an idea about a YouTube channel or a podcast or a storybook or whatever that is going to help elevate the planet right now. Step into it and do it, because I'm telling you, the Most High, the angels, the ancestors, they're just waiting for us to take the first step in this 3D realm so that they can come in and help us. And that is also what is bringing about this this fire manifestation. So thank you for having me on your show.
Well, listen, it the interesting part for me is that things I tend to have the same types of results. Like I watch different shows, and I watch in certain I guess genres of shows. I don't watch everything, but I'll go on YouTube, and there's certain things that metaphysics and UFO stuff and ET, those kinds of things, deep thought, conspiracies, those kinds of things I'm looking for. But it came to mind, I would love to have Sister Lutishia on the show. And at the time when I was kept thinking about wanting you on the show, I had no idea that you were who you are. We had already connected because you are one of the sisters of war. Like the other sisters that I signed up, and that's where we made the first connect. I guess a few months back, just before the Stone Mountain event. And you ended up going to that, but there was something in me that says you have to get her on the show. You have to get her on the show. And we hadn't spoken since the Stone Mountain event, before the Stone Mountain event. But I knew you went. I knew Sister Inez, Isis L went, but you two missed each other. But we had that conversation, and so somebody said, call her now. And so I called you, and as we had the conversation, and I realized who you are. Now, a lot of sisters have signed up for the war. And I am so excited because I know that in that almost 300 sisters, there is such a powerhouse of talent, ability, like you said, alchemy, herbalists, all kinds of, I know that, there are people who are technically, sophisticated actors and actresses rather, like yourself, and so many others that are talented. And so it excited me. So I said, okay, I'm gonna call her. So as we began to talk, and then I found out who you are, I was like, oh wow, sis on fire, and we have to have, and we have to, really, really do a connect. But tonight we're going to talk about, I'm pretty sure, a few things. But you are a best-selling author. I'm a little author. I got one book sitting on the shelf. My one book.
Congratulations!
That's right. So this book, I'm trying to put out another book, but that what I'm saying. You have put out over how many books? How many books have you authored?
I think I'm going to hit 60 this year. I think I'm going to hit my 60th book this year. Yeah.
And 60 books, 60th book. And how long have you been publishing, have been a published author?
This will mark, well, a traditionally published author since 2007, but that book that was picked up by my publisher was written in 2004. So this will technically be my 20th year as a published author.
And
So yeah, so I've been at it for a minute.
and you are controversial to many, to say the least, but bold. The fact that you have written a lot of books that actually deal with the complexities of of the church, if you will, and the reality of the humanity of those who make up the church, because we tend to put men and women of God, you know me say it like that, in
Yeah.
an exalted category. And so when we hear certain things, about this happening and that happening, then we are shocked, and I'm thinking that the only folks that are shocked are people that don't go to church, because people in the
Right.
church, people in the church either downright know, or at least have an inkling, they heard it through the grapevine, that things aren't as holy as they put out to be. So what let's talk about your journey before we get into the books. Your journey growing up, because there has to be. I'm sure you probably have had a foundation in the church, and for you to be able to write, you
Oh,
know,
for sure.
yeah, the way you do. Let's talk a little bit about that and your journey.
Well, I was Black Baptist from the womb. Not from the time I was born, but from the womb. Okay. I'm sure I was bobbing my head to What a Fellowship in the water. Okay. My parents went to church all the time. Very religious family that came from a line of religious teachers and preachers, etc. So yeah, I grew up in the church, and then when I was like 12 years old, and I also grew up in a very small town in Kansas. So the church that I was attending at that time, if we hit 30 on a Sunday, we were doing we were doing good. Okay. And then when I was about 12 years old, my dad was called to preach, as they say in churchianity, meaning that he heard from the Lord and he went into ministry. Now, what was good about that for me is that, unlike a lot of PKs, like I didn't learn this until later, the bad rap that PKs get about how we're supposed to be all wild because we can't do anything, and we're held to a higher standard. That really wasn't my experience. My dad didn't become a minister until I was 12. And so I actually saw his journey. I saw him, for instance, stop going to the pool hall. I saw him stop smoking cigarettes. Um, and so, because his journey kind of evolved as I was growing up, I was never put in that position to have to stop being a kid. Like, we played R&B, music in the house. I was a cheerleader with my short skirts, and there was no change really in my childhood. So I didn't have that experience. However, I really didn't need it because I was already a prude. I mean, I was all in with what the word said, and I had also, had my sex education, which was basically keep your panties up and your pants down and your skirt down. That was like the extent of that, and I was towing that line. So I had a pretty lofty opinion of who I was supposed to be as a Christian, right? And not that I was perfect, by any means, but I did have standards. So, and then I also had a point, Dr. G, where I said, once I leave home, I'm never going to church again. Because I did have to go to church all the time. Going to church wasn't an option, right? But that really set the stage for me. Church was just always a part of life, right? And so even after about 6 months, I lasted for about 6 months once I left home of not going to church. And then after the bills started coming and life started happening, honey, I ran to a pew,
Don't be.
okay? But anyway, but so that happened, and then church became, as it is for so many of us, something you did on Sunday. And you may also go to a Wednesday Bible study or prayer meeting or whatever. You may do that, but then the rest of your week and the rest of your life, you're kind of just living your life. That's what it became for me. And it was that way until I left the Baptist church and went to a denomination called Word Faith. And there's a whole long story, in between that, but I'm speeding it up for time. So I went to a church called Word Faith, and that was the first time that I really started getting into the Word. That was the first church that encouraged you to open, for me. That was the first church that encouraged me to open my Bible and to really begin studying for myself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once that happened, it was right around that same time. And I didn't realize this until I was thinking about being on this, about tonight's show. It was also about this time that I was having my first real conscious experience. And that's what led to my first kind of really questioning of Christianity in the way I would later be led further down that path. And it was all around the white man's religion, because I was with a lot of conscious people. I was working in radio by that time. I worked in radio for about 15 years in Kansas City and was an actor. And during that time, I got to meet a lot of people and I got to interview a lot of people. And that's when I became familiar with like the Steve Coakleys, the Chokwe Lumumbas. I interviewed Minister Farrakhan. I started reading more conscious work like George James' Stolen Legacy, for instance, Anthony Browder, the Browder Files, things like that. And I started being around people that were questioning this religion that we had been given, and especially this white Jesus that was supposed to have originated in the Middle East. This white Jesus that in most of the church fans and programs that I saw was blonde haired, blue eyed, or maybe brown haired. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely did not look Middle Eastern. And so I had my little Black Power moment, during that time. But I still went to church because it's what you did on Sunday. In
Yeah.
the Black community, as you know, church isn't just religion. It's your life. It's your social circle. It's your friends. Once I started acting, in fact, I became a professional actor in Kansas City because someone came to a church, a theater event we put on at church and saw me act in that. So it just was so interwoven in my life that I didn't think anything about it, even with the question of, well, yeah, that is kind of strange that you've got this white dude dropped down in the middle of the Middle East around all of these supposedly melanated people. But I was still just in it, not only for what it offered on Sunday, but for more of the social
Social, yeah.
side of it. You know what I mean?
I
That's where
do.
my friends were. And so that was until um, an event that happened in around 89, 90. And that event, and it was a traumatic event that happened in this Word Faith ministry that I was a part of. And without going into a long detail about it, because again, not only am I an actor, but I'm a writer, so I can get really long-winded and go into detail. And I know we don't have that kind of time, so let me just stay focused. But there was a very traumatic event that happened at the church, and it caused me. It was so egregious, and I'll just share this much of it. we were at a healing service, okay? Because unlike in the Baptist church where we would just put you on a prayer list and pray for you, in this Word Faith church, they literally believed in the laying on of hands and that you could actually heal. And I'm down with that because I've always had this glass all the way full kind of personality. And it was like, that really felt more authentic to this Most High, to this omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient force that, yeah, we should be able to do it ourselves. So we were at this healing event, and this gentleman had come up to be healed. And he was in a wheelchair as a result of a shooting. And he wasn't a part of a gang or anything like that. He had just been at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? And he wanted to get out of that chair, Dr. G. And so the pastor had all of us, putting our hands in his direction, and we're all speaking in tongues, and the music is playing, and we're going into it. And this young man, I always, even all this time later, I get emotional, but if he could have got out of that chair, he would have got out of that chair. You understand what I'm saying? If anybody wanted to get out of that chair, it was this young brother. And he didn't. He didn't walk. And the pastor, after it became clear that he wasn't going to walk that day, told the congregation, and him by way of this, that he didn't walk because he didn't have enough faith. And I was so angry because the look on that young man's face, that it was somehow his fault. First of all, he getting shot, it wasn't even his fault. Now he can't walk because it's his fault. I went home and I was livid. And I was livid enough that I lost my mind because I confronted the entity I then called God. I was on my knees, I was crying, and I said, you have got to tell me who you are. Until that point, it's like my mama told me, my daddy told me, my grandmama told me, the preachers have told me, Sunday school teachers have told me, but something's wrong with this picture. You have got to tell me who you are. And several months after that, I don't know, because it's been 20 years or more now, but a short time after that, Dr. G, I got a new job in radio where I was the news director. And part of the perk as the news director was I got to cover the Kansas City Chiefs. I was living in Kansas City at that time. Now, I always loved football, but let me tell you something, sister. When you have a press pass covering the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, it's a whole other level of watching professional football. Do you hear me? I'm talking 50-yard line, sweep. Football became my religion for the next year.
I can imagine, even if it wasn't before.
Football became my religion for the next 3 years. But what I didn't realize, because when we're in the journey, we don't always understand that we're on the journey. So what Spirit had done, shortly after I said, show me who you are, is pull me out of church. I didn't realize that at the time, but he pulled me out of church. So that caused me I was watching a lot of, and I also shortly after left that church, also the church that I witnessed the travesty. So I was still like watching a lot of ministers on television, and I would go to various conferences one of which happened in Oklahoma every year. It was Carlton Pearson, and it was a conference called Azusa.
Susan. Mm-hmm.
Azusa at that time was the holy grail of conferences for the melanated community. If anybody who was anybody was at Azusa. Now, I didn't really know this at the time because I was word faith. I wasn't really into charismatic or whatever the denomination that Carlton Pearson was in. Of course, I'd seen him, on television, but I wasn't really into him like that. But I went to that conference, and it was I have what I call these lines of demarcation in my life when I can definitely look back and say, at that point, this happened, and at that point, this happened, kind of like what I'm sharing right now. Well, I met two people, or I saw two people at this conference that was going to lead to a life change. One is very well known now, but at that time, it was his first national appearance. And he preached a message called Push, Pray Until Something Happens. And he was introduced as someone that we better remember this name because we were going to hear it a lot in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Thomas Dexter
Jakes.
Jakes,
Yes.
now well known as TD Jakes. I heard him, and I heard another minister who I had not heard of before, and that is the late, great Miles Monroe. And he had two books published at that point. One was called Understanding Your Potential, and the other was called Releasing Your Potential. And in that message, he talked about robbing the grave of your potential. And so it sent me on this journey into who I am, right? And that led me to moving to California. So while I'm in California, I rejoined a church because that's what I know in terms of how to meet people, how to, build a social structure, et cetera, et cetera. And at the same time, I met someone who is a friend and became a spiritual mentor to me. And it was the first person that I had met who really wasn't into church like that, but was rather into spirituality, right?
Mhm.
So I started being introduced to another way of looking at, quote, God. And I don't use that term anymore. I use spirit or the Most High. I say God just for the sake of whoever's listening who is more used to that word. And spirit started speaking to me and showing me, answering the question basically that I had asked about who are you? Who is this entity called God? Who is this energy? Who is this whole concept that like basically governs the world in a way? People move based on their religion, based on, you know what I'm saying? And I fought a lot of the answers I was getting. I jokingly tell people, honey, I rebuked God in the name of Jesus, honey. I told him to get behind me, Satan. I was saying all kinds of things because I was hearing things such as, I was the God, that, that the God was in me. And even though we hear scriptures such as Christ in you, the hope of glory, we hear scriptures that Yeshua said, such as, when he did miracles and the disciples were marveling, but he says, oh, greater things than me will you do. There's scriptures that say the kingdom is within you. Those were not looked at from a metaphysical point of view in religion, in the church.
Right.
I don't even know if that they were looked at that much at all. But I began this journey still in church, but starting to open up to different books and different concepts, but I was really struggling with it. And but I was open to it because by then I had really developed a personal relationship with the Most High. So I knew the voice and I knew that this was spirit. but I still was kind of in that habit. I was in what was comfortable. And I I knew that it was the most high, but I really didn't have a point of reference or a um an example, if you will, other than like the sister I had met, to really show what that looked like. This is
Mhm.
before even a lot of motivation speaking and stuff like this. This was like the 90s. And then it may have been out then, but I wasn't really into it. So it's the late 90s. At that time, and I went out to I went out to California to conquer Hollywood. And Spirit was like, oh no, child. And so I quickly realized that Hollywood was not for me. Okay. And not so much because of spirituality or anything like that, but because I know who I am as an actor. I know that it's a gift from the Most High. And I'll be damned if I'm going to have some obviously untalented little whippersnapper sitting at a table with a judgmental look on their face telling yes, no, and like, didn't work for me. Didn't work for me. So I came in contact with a group of Christian entertainers. It was an organization called Christian Entertainers Fellowship, and through that I developed a one woman show called Sunday's Sisters. Okay, and it was various characters that if you've been to Black churches at all, or if you know anybody that's been to a Black church, you've met sisters like the ones I had in this one woman show. And the most popular character was called a praying woman. And this sister prayed about everything. Okay. And she became very popular. I won awards with her. I began to perform in all of the big mega churches in California. And by then I was, well, the first church that I joined out in California was Dr. Price's Crenshaw Christian Center. That was the first church I joined. And then by this time I had perfected this character, I had moved on to a church called Church of the Harvest, which was a more charismatic. They called it the Church of Hollywood because anybody who was anybody came through our church. And I was also very, very involved in that ministry. So to your point of what you were talking about earlier about how people feel, people act in the church, I will also say this: it's not always the parishioners' fault necessarily, because there is a church in front of the curtain. There's a church that people see in front of the curtain.
Oh yeah.
And there's a church that goes on behind the curtain.
That's right. Oh yes.
And so if you're in the end, if you're in the inside, and I was very active in all of the churches I was a part of. So, so I was kind of on the inside, if you will. So I was doing this praying woman, and I met a gentleman. And again, long story short, but it was another crazy co-create. I've had so many crazy co-creates in my life. But this co-create, Dr. G, landed me in Israel, as in the country, as in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And I was there as an actor for a tour that was set up. It was called Jerusalem 2000. It was started by a Jewish man.
So-called.
And it was the idea was to create a bridge between Judaism and Christianity. So this man went around to a lot of Black churches and promoted this tour where they would bring their parishioners over, and it was a 10-day tour. They would visit all of the holy sites, etc. And as a part of this visit, they would see biblical theater. And that's what I was hired to do. My main show, where I was the star of the show, I was Ruth, honey, looking for my Boaz. And so I thought, this is it, because I've been still trying to break into the big leagues in entertainment, but only this time I thought it's going to be through Christian entertainment, right? So I thought, this is it. I have my character that's very popular, and now I'm going to have all of these major mega churches from across the country see the character, because one of the perks that the gentleman who organized this event gave me was a platform at the final dinner to perform a praying woman. And so I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to have all these people see a praying woman, and that's going to be my ticket to spread the ministry across the country. And it was also going to be the way, Dr. G, that I became an opening act and possible MC for these gospel concerts, right? So I had it planned because, again, everybody who was anybody, any gospel artist you could name in that time frame, late 90s, early 2000s, was in our church. All of the majors, just all of the major names. And also a lot of the very famous actors and actresses that were a part of our church. And then if they came to town, they'd come through our church. So I knew that this was my ticket. And I often laugh now because I had this all planned out. And you know that saying that we plan, God laughs? That's what happened. Because what I thought was going to be my entrance into the high levels of Christendom became my exit. So what had happened was, when I arrived in Jerusalem, there were 6 of us who were the main actors for these plays. We had 4 major plays that took place over the 10 days. And I'll never forget when I arrived, and it had been after a long flight and all of that stuff. And I got to the house and I was jet lagged. And I remember going to sleep. And then when I woke up, the first thing I wanted to do was hit the town. I'm in Jerusalem. I'm in Israel. Let me go. And there were 4 of us staying in this apartment, or it was a townhouse, staying in a suburb called Pisgat Se'ev. And so they were telling me, oh, we're going to, we have some Christian friends in wherever they were, and we're going to go to dinner tonight, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, I didn't come all the way to Jerusalem to hang out with some Americans. So I transferred some dollars into some shekels, got me a bus pass, and I hit the streets, right? And I quickly became friends with a group of Palestinians, because in the old city, what they call the city of David, there was a main shuk or shop where they sold all kinds of things. And I would go there every day because I could walk there. It was about a mile away from the house, and it was a way for me to go out. And also I loved all of the shopping, and I loved these people. Well, I quickly learned from this group I was with, who I now call the Sadducees and the Pharisees, that, oh, that wasn't cool. They didn't interact with Muslims. And they even said that the Jewish man who was signing our check was going to hell because he was a Jew. And after that statement, once again, now by then Spirit knows me, so Spirit is like, oh, here she come. I went into the room because things that, it's like, even if you don't know what you don't know, if you're open to the Spirit, things will hit your spirit in a way that you know there's more to it, right?
Right.
So they were having this conversation like, oh, yes, he's so nice and blah, blah, blah. Too bad he's going to hell. And I went into I excused myself. This was at dinner one night. And again, this was shortly after I arrived. And so I'm just meeting these people. I went into my room, and I know this was Spirit because I was really deep into the Bible at that point, but not like, oh, I can tell you, go to book this and chapter this to talk about salvation or to talk about restoration or to talk about, I didn't know the Bible like that. But when I went into the room, Spirit whispered a chapter in Romans. And even now, I don't remember exactly what the chapter was. But what it talked about was how the Gentile was grafted into the tree. And to basically don't get too haughty about what you think you know in Christ, because you were grafted into the tree. If it hadn't been for the people backsliding or turning their back on me, you wouldn't even have had a way in. So you just stay in your lane. I'm paraphrasing. This is the Lutishia Lovely version of the Bible. So you just stay in your lane and let me take care of my people. That's what the scripture basically said. And so I remember the next morning we would always start the morning with like prayer and a little study, as we were having breakfast. And I brought it up to him. I said, you guys said something yesterday that really bothered me. And I shared with them what they had said. You said that he was going to hell. And then I shared with them the scripture that Spirit had given me. And they listened. And then you know what they said?
No, you're going to.
Nothing.
Oh, they didn't say anything.
They went on to the next topic like I hadn't even spoken. And from that moment, I was just kind of in my own world. Like I said, I hung out with the Palestinians, and then the technicians and everybody who helped us in our plays. They were Israeli, but they were secular Israelis, but they were like cool dudes. And so that's who I was hanging with. I was hanging with the people of the land. And I told Spirit, I said, look, because by then I knew I could no longer continue in this. I didn't even call it leaving Christianity at that time, but I couldn't continue in the path I was going. So I remember saying to Spirit, look, I came to you through the Bible. You're going to have to take me out through the Bible. That's how I can feel comfortable coming out, right? And that's basically what happened. I had so many experiences outside of Christianity where I knew it was the Most High. And there's so many. We'd be here for hours if I shared with you, but just a couple of them. One was with a gentleman. We became really, really good friends. In fact, he proposed to me, Dr. G. His name was Zuri. And he wanted us to get married, but then we had the whole conversation about the 4 wives and what I could do and what I couldn't do, and that didn't last very long. So anyway, but we were going to the Dead Sea, no, the Mediterranean. We were going to one of the seas one evening to swim, and the sun was coming down, so he told the driver to pull over. And he got out, Dr. G, and on the side of the road, he did his prayers. And the Spirit of the Lord came into that car. Like literally, it was the Most High. So that was like, okay, here's this Muslim paying homage, and I'm feeling the Spirit. And that continued in so many different ways as I continued this extended stay. I was there for about 6 months. And then the very last thing that happened was at the end of the tour. And I had come back to California by then, and everything was over. And at that time, we were planning for the following year. This was something that he was going to continue. Well, I got a call from the organizer, this Jewish man, telling me that he had received a letter from a couple of the other people who had worked with me, informing him that they didn't want me to come back, and they had listed all my sins. Okay? And one of them was that I had touched a man's bare stomach. And that was so funny. That's why I call them the Pharisees and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because the reason I had touched him is because he had come to me. Now, this is a secular Israeli who doesn't believe in God like that. But he had come to me one day because he had been seeing our performances and all of that stuff. And he said that his stomach was hurting. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me pray for you real quick. And this was even before I was really aware of my gift as an energy healer. And before I had, taken classes and stuff on becoming an energy healer. And this is also through my lineage. I didn't really realize the line of healers that I come from. But anyway, so I laid hands on him, but I did know about some laying hands because I had been in the charismatic and Pentecostal church by that time for probably about, I don't know, over 10 years. So I just put my hand on his stomach, point of contact, and prayed. And I remember him coming up to me about an hour later, just wide-eyed, going, my stomach ache went away, and I was like, yeah, that's how we roll. That's how we roll over here. So, but that's one of the points that they had pointed out that was, a sin because I had touched this man. So I knew then that I was not going to go back into what I had left when I left California. And, but I still didn't quite know. Let me add this last aside. So they thought they were going to kick me out, right, of this group. Well, you don't mess with a favorite daughter of the Most High. I'm being facetious, partly, but partly not. But what happened 3 weeks after we returned? No, 3 weeks after that conversation. I want to say it was September of 2000 or August of 2000, whenever it wasn't a month later after we had this conversation about them wanting to kick me out, was when Ariel Sharon, who was the president or prime minister or something like that in Israel at that time, he went to the wall and the whole war broke out between the latest one, because there's been a zillion of them, but the latest one that's still going on to this day broke out between the Palestinians and the Jews. So that was the end of that group.
Right.
And the end of that tour. And the end of that whole thing. So when I came back, I thought, well, I know what I know, but let me just go to church to, catch up with my old friends. I'm still, I jokingly say that spirit created the earth in 7 days, but it took him 11 years to pull me out of religion. And that's really true. But part of it is because of the comfort zone. Part of it is because that's where your friends are and that's where the social people are. And the other part is you don't want to be different. Everybody's a Christian. And so, but when I asked Spirit about that, when I got ready to go to church, every time I get ready to go to church, I would hear, well, let's go to the beach. Or let's go to the park. Or let's go somewhere else. And I finally figured it out that I wasn't supposed to go back to church. So that was my official end to Christianity. And there was one last try. And ironically enough, it was with the same minister whose message had prompted me to move to California, Pray Until Something Happens, T.D. Jakes. He was in town. And I thought to myself, I didn't even ask Spirit for this time. I said, well, look, if I can go see anybody, I know I can go see some T.D. Jakes. Dr. G, when I went to see him and I was in that church and everybody was jumping up and all of this stuff and he was doing the same sermon, I literally felt like I was having an out-of-body experience because I could see. There's a scripture that says that the eye of your understanding becomes enlightened. And that scripture is referring to your spiritual eye.
Yes. Your first eye. Wait, first eye, we call it third eye, but yeah.
Right. It's called the third eye because that was probably said by somebody. We're always putting the physical first, but it's really our first eye.
Yeah.
I saw, for the first time, I really saw what was going on. And the same sermon that years ago I would have been jumping up and down to, I realized these are the same sermon. Like, there's literally, I think if you peel it back, there's about 20 sermons that have been preached for 100 years. I'm serious. And it was the same stuff. And that was the end. That was the end. And shortly after that, that's when my spiritual education began in earnest, because when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I began hearing about other speakers. I began hearing about churches such as Agape and the Unity churches and things like that. But more than anything, I just became a voracious student. And before then, I had been a real student of the scriptures, but not under like divinity. Like, I didn't go to a school to learn about it. I was taught by the Most High. So I had a different understanding of those scriptures I was reading. And so that was my coming out of the illusion, coming out of the darkness. Oh, brought me out of the darkness.
Listen, let me interject. Though you had that coming out, we had this conversation, earlier. So a couple days ago, you came out. When I came out, so to speak, a lot of times for people, they make a decision, they realize there's a lot of controversy in their belief systems and what they've been going through, and they're feeling, pulled in a different direction. But we are not very vocal about it. We don't feel comfortable announcing to the world that, we no longer are quote unquote believers. And so, we tend to just not show up. You're no longer, you know how to talk about in the world, but not of it. And you find out there's another world that you didn't even pay attention to or know existed when you were in the church. So now you get to explore life, if you will, in its fullness, so to speak. And you also get to explore. Now maybe I'm talking my own self.
No,
but
I can relate.
You get to explore the suppressed feelings and thoughts, things that you try to bury or not address because of the taboos of church that have kept us in certain tracks. And even though, like you said, the circles, their inner circles, I always call them, I think there are more than one circle. And I always found myself I may have known the people in the inner circle, but I was on the outer part of the inner circle. So, and I say that to the extent that for me, the people in the inner circle indulged in things. They were the ones that, after the benediction, there were things going on, and you knew about it, but you weren't about it. You weren't in it, but you were aware of it, which I felt for me was always a saving grace, as opposed to, I probably could have been if I wanted to, but it was I tried to put that in a high regard until I couldn't anymore. And when I couldn't anymore, I just kind of said, I'm out. You know what I mean? But I came back. Now, that was in my growing up years. But when I came back, like your dad, having heard the call, but I think it's more of a reformation of, I'm seeing things. I know I'm studied and so forth. And I'm seeing things that I know I would do differently if I was in that position. And eventually, so, who calls us? We probably call ourselves, when you think about it. But I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to do it with less of the behind the scenes things being different than the things that you saw in front. I wanted to be the same person after the benediction. Yeah. That I was, when I was up in the pulpit. I wanted that same respect for myself and have others actually see me that way, while giving them something I felt was something that was quality that they could use today. And like you're talking about 20 sermons. I mean, we were, doing some stuff down at the House of Reawakening Minds today, and we picked up, those large bins that you store clothes and things in. And I have bins and bins of CDs and DVDs back then that I haven't thrown away, because I want to go through them, because I literally sometimes will put in a DVD and hear the message and get excited and say, damn, if I didn't know better, I would shout probably. But I'll pick out the parts. It was, I'll pick out the parts that were, relevant and
Yes.
are relevant. And, you know, I spit the bones out. I'm like, yeah, because I was doing that
Exactly.
because that's what everybody was doing. But I mean, when I say I literally, that 10 years of pastoring, I preached zillions of sermons, more than I even realized I did. And I never wanted to be a repeat. I never wanted to hear TD Jakes on before I got to church and change my message. No,
Yes.
this is I wanted to hear it in my voice. I mean, in my head. I usually heard it for 2 or 3 or 4 days prior, and then that was going to be it. And I don't care what he said or Paula said or whoever said. But there are some people that follow trends. But the telling of the being vocal about it, like you said, not wanting to lose friends. Because that's where your friendships are. When your whole life is wrapped up, tied up, and tangled up in Jesus, you don't even know, the other people. And yeah, maybe you do want to drink a glass of wine, or maybe you do want to, groove a little bit to something. You want to do it freely and not under condemnation. And like you, my leading out, when I did come out, I was led to nature. I
Mm.
started doing something called Nature Church, which meant I'm taking people on Facebook Live. When they first started letting you do videos, I started walking through the Brandywine Park here, and Sunday morning in my stuff you wear to work out, and
Yeah.
taking them on a journey through the woods and taking hundreds and hundreds of pictures of nature, and getting and feeling like telling them one day, I really feel like I love people now more now than I did when I was in the church. I
Mm.
respect other life and all that more now, and I did, than when I was in the church. And for me, this House of Reawakening Minds, you knowing who I am, and whoever else knows who I am, and Grand Chic, this became, I said, I'm no longer in ministry. And somebody said, yes, you are. And I realized that we had put a church label on ministry, and ministry is not church. Ministry is like administering or
Yes.
aiding or giving something. So you still minister when you give of yourself, your abilities to other people, your time. When you have a podcast, which I know you just gotten that one started, but the sessions that I heard, I love it. Lovely, love.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and so I've got to put it up so folks will know, to go to your channel. But what I'm saying is, I found the expansiveness, and it sounds like you too, in coming out of the box of religion, because religion, and tying back is restrictive. And I think as time has gone by, for me, you've been out a lot longer than I have, but for me, it's been 11 years, going on 12 years, and my growth has been, I think, phenomenal in terms of my ability to see the larger picture. How about you? I mean, have you started to see, did you begin to see things on that grander metaphysical? I call myself a metaphysician,
Yes.
I too am a, energy worker, and I like, I'm an intuitive. I was an intuitive when I thought I was given, in church they call it word of knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. So our church, it's you're just intuitive, and a lot of us are intuitive, but we don't trust our intuition. And
Mm.
I found came more trusting of what gifts that, I'm not saying all of them, but I begin to see more gifts. And just like I told you yesterday, speaking to that young lady and having that conversation that I had,
Yes.
and it turns out that I said the wrong thing, but then I realized it made her ask me, when is your birthday? What month? And I said, oh, this next month, what date? And so when I told her the date, she says, hello, twin, you know, and we're we have the same board day, but then the word that I gave her, and she said, I should have known, because you had that bag that says the magic is in you. Because we know when you come
Yes.
out of religion and being tied down, then you can explore
Yes.
the full gambit, if you will, of your, as we would say in a church, anointing, but your giftings, your talents,
Mhm.
your the things that you have the interest, most interest in, because folks are talking about purpose,
Yes,
and I know you are a light coach, not a life coach, but a light coach. And a lot of
exactly.
times people want to know, what is my purpose? They think, you can tell them, you may help guide them, but if you ask a person a question like, what have you always, what do you enjoy doing most, and different things, a lot of times what they enjoy doing most is a part of their purpose, and it's not what they're doing because they are working or trying to please other folks, but they have a totally different purpose, of which
Yes,
they may find fulfillment and happiness, and help other people in the process. Because that's what I found for me.
yeah, yeah.
That when I was a little girl, I told my mom I was going to be. I was younger, I wasn't little. I told my mom that I was going to be. I used to follow Les Brown. I
Oh,
wanted.
yes.
I wanted to be a motivational speaker, and so my mother said, "You're going to be a preacher," and I didn't. We didn't go to church. I went to church as a child. My mother didn't go to church, but she says, "Oh, you're going to be a preacher." No, I'm not going to be a preacher. I'm going to be a motivational speaker. Years later, here I was pastoring and really feeling more like a motivational speaker than
Yes.
than a pastor, a religious philosopher. That's not, I never felt that way. I always felt like, I'm just giving people, I'm taking the word and using this, and I'm going to put my own spin on it so it can help them today.
Yes.
Because I'm not, Ruth and all that and the Boaz stuff. But the funny part about it, Ruth, is when I found out as I was awakening that to uncover one's feet in the Hebrew idiom really means to have sex. And
And all that time, we're
all that,
talking
uncover his feet, give him some.
about, okay.
We spiritualize,
Everything.
you know,
Yeah.
which is a good segue. I want to listen, y'all. This woman
No,
has.
before we go there,
I'm
there's
gonna pull up the pictures of your of like the whole gambit, but go
no,
ahead.
that's fine. But there's two things I got to do before we go on. First of all, because you mentioned Grand Chic, please a shout out and a bow down to Grand Chic Taj Tariq Bey. That is how I found you, Dr. G.
Absolutely.
And I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he came on and I was just, I'm trying to think of the word. There was so much knowledge, so much wisdom, so much truth. And the thing about it, when we step out of the illusion of religion, it's much easier for the other pillars of the illusion to fall. At least that was my experience. And I believe it's the experience of all melanated, because we are such spiritual beings. Because of our melanin, because of who we are in this whole universe, we are spiritual beings. And so if we are still under the bondage of religion, and that's what the word religion means, to bind, then it's impossible, because our eye is still cloudy. So we can't see beyond that. If you can't see beyond what the history of the organization that you have committed not only your life but your soul to, if you don't wake up to what that is, then there's no way to wake up to anything else. So I just had to give that shout out to Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. He's a real one, and I just am so appreciative of the work that he has done for decades to help enlighten us. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, one of the things that happened as I was having this journey is, even when I was still in church, by that time, because like I said, I was deep in the scripture and spirit was talking to me. So spirit would tell me things, and I was able to interpret scripture in a different way. And even at the church I was at, there were some esoterical and some semi kind of metaphysical things being taught in the with a Christian cover on it, if you will. And it's funny because I have a dear friend of mine, Holly. We were going to the same church, and we would look at each other later because we'd be like, okay, he was saying this, but we kind of know he was talking about something else. You know what I'm saying? And so I was able to kind of navigate both worlds. But when I did, quote, come out, what happened for me, and I did tell my family, and that was, that was something because, retired, my dad's a retired minister, and my whole family is Christian, so there was immediately concerns for my sanity. and, and concern that I was in a cult or something, or that I was no longer Christian. I think it took 5 years before my mother stopped asking where my church home was. But I felt comfortable around those people, and then my whole world kind of changed quickly. So it really wasn't about having to explain who I was, because I was no longer at that church. And then very quickly, Spirit just led me into a different direction. I became the managing editor for a holistic magazine, for instance. And so that brought me into the whole spiritual sphere, the Don Miguel Ruiz's, the Neil Donald Walsh's, the Deepak Chopra, that whole thing. So I was kind of immediately immersed into that. And my friends, it wasn't so much that it just wouldn't come up. And a lot of times, especially if you're melanated, people just assume you're Christian. Yes. Because in America, the majority of us are. So it was more about just not saying, as opposed to, I didn't feel that I had to come out and declare. You see what I'm saying? But people knew and know that I'm woo-woo. That's what I call myself. They know I'm woo-woo. They know that I call spirit, or the Most High. But I think people would just assume. And even with the books we're getting ready to talk about, which I don't think I would have been able to write if I had still been in church, Dr. G, because I would have been restricted by that bondage of religion. But because I was out of it, I was able to let these characters flow through me. And because I also knew them very well, I was able to let them flow out of me. But people would assume, again, because I was writing these church-based books that no matter how much the publisher would call them contemporary fiction, they would get thrown into the Christian fiction category. Again, people would just assume. And while I wouldn't, while I wouldn't lie, I would also not feel it necessary, because it would just not come up, because I do believe in the Most High. It's just that I don't believe in religiosity. And so that's kind of where I was. And then also, I was not one of those straight-laced Christians that believed you couldn't drink. Because I loved my wine and still love a good glass of wine. I know people were fornicating. I was celibate for years, honey. Yeah. And I remember this one time, this guy, he was trying to get some, and I said, we can't do that. We're Christians. And I'll never forget his response. In fact, I think I may have used it in the book. He said, we'll still be saved afterwards. Maybe we can do it. We'll still be saved. But so I did, my transition was easier. And in fact, Dr. G, I was talking with a group. I sent a text to a group that I'm in. Shout out to the Book Nook. Shout out to the Zoom Room Book Nook folks. Some of them may be in the building. And so love and light to y'all. But I was telling them that I was a bit nervous, which is crazy, because I've been interviewed a zillion times, and I've interviewed, over 10 years in radio. But this, for me, Dr. G, is a sort of coming out on another level, because now, it's like, let it be known, this is who I am, and this is where and it's so necessary now because of the time we're in. This is an all hands on deck, all out battle for not only the soul of humanity, but for our individual souls. And so those of us who are light workers and know the truth, we have to let our light shine. And there are people like you. There's people like Shavi Zane. Shout out to Shavi Zane, who really inspired me. I did a session with her, and she really inspired me to know you've got to share your story, because there are people, and especially in the next 2 years, I feel there's going to be this whole exodus. This, as people continue to wake up, I believe that we're at that point, because there is going to come a point where the choices that have been made are going to be harder to reverse. But I think that we're still in kind of a season of grace here, where people who are waking up and who want the truth, they are going to be looking for people like you and I, who've been there and done that, who not, and that's what I tell people. Not only I'm like you, I was you. Like I said, when Spirit started talking to me, I was like, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, talking about, oh, I'm a God, and talking about there are many masters. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. I didn't, it took a lot for me to accept that, because of what I had been taught. And so it is so important for me to tell my story. And I was fearful, quite frankly, Dr. G, because of the book you're getting ready to hold up, my audience, whom I still love dearly. And I also put a post out on Facebook for them to join me. Some of them have been with me my entire career, and they're very Christian. And honestly, Dr. G, I was fearful, because I'm still a full-time author, along with a full-time caretaker. Shout out to my daddy, who just came in here getting ready to interrupt the show. But I was fearful. Like, what will people think? How will I be? Will I be accepted? That whole thing of wanting to be liked. I'm Libra, so I don't like conflict. I want everyone to get along. I want peace and harmony. But what I realized is that my purpose is more important. And I am here. I accepted when you talked about what people's purpose is, or what they're here to do, because everyone comes in here on assignment.
Absolutely.
Before we come down, we accept what we're coming down for. But then what happens during the birthing process, and I think that this was probably intentional, is it literally gets smacked out of us.
You know what I think, though? I always say that the 9 month in the amniotic fluid, I call it amnesia juice. And we're rocking in this amnesia juice. They call it amniotic fluid, and we're forgetting. So, and then
that's interesting. The viewpoint I have is a little different. I think that we're very well aware in that amniotic fluid. I think that we are cocooned, and I think the amnesia happens
with the light.
Exactly.
With like the
exactly. Because imagine this, for 9 months, and then for forever before, we've been in darkness and then lifetimes or whatever. And then we're cocooned in this beautiful fluid, and we're going, even though there's different traumas that people may be going through, depending on what the mother's going through, but that's a whole nother video. But we come out, most of us, into this fluorescent room. We immediately get cut physically from the source, which isn't supposed to happen. Basically, it's all wrong. We get cut from our food source.
Mm-hmm.
We get turned up and down by a stranger we don't even know. I laughingly say we get abused from the moment we're born. Because back in my day, it was mostly a white man gonna smack me, turn me upside down, smack me, and then immediately not give me back to the only entity I've known for 9 months, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to immediately put the baby on the heart. That's how you're no, you get taken away by another stranger and put on a cold stainless steel tray. That, I believe, is where the amnesia comes, because that is a trauma. That's our first trauma. And I believe that anything we thought we knew before that, we come in like, wait a minute. And then because of how our parents are trained, we immediately become a part of this system of indoctrination that we have unknowingly participated in for the last 400 years, we become a part of the brainwashing. We become a part of the mind control because our parents,
Indoctrination.
and a lot of times their parents, now, well, not the great grandparents, they were a little different because they were still having midwives and things like that. But even after that, because they'd been indoctrinated in religion, the training, how the child was trained was different. So that's what I believe. But I do believe that we all come in here with a purpose, and we all come in here on assignment. And I say in a video that I just did, and thank you so much for mentioning my YouTube channel. That is part of, and I also I want to share this for anybody who has a purpose. Do it now, especially if your purpose is about uplifting humanity in whatever way that is. And I specifically am reaching out to artists because I believe in the creative process of the artist. You know, the Most High loves the artist. I mean, it loves everybody, but there's something special about the poet and the music because of how we get connected, right? If spirit is giving you that, do it now, because there is a whole host of spiritual entities waiting for us to make moves. You know, one of the things I thought, Dr. G, is I need everything perfect. I need to be in studio. I need to have the right cameras. I need to have I need to have everything perfect before I do a show, before I set up a show. And then I certainly wasn't going to talk about the stuff I'm talking about now until I had a certain amount of subscribers, and all of this stuff I had planned, and it's all been thrown out the window because spirit is like, just do what you're supposed to do. And literally, I just started my channel. I just started this series this year, and here we are in February, and I'm on your show. And that's just showing me, if you just take a teeny tiny step into your purpose and into your destiny, the universe is waiting, because this is our time. This is our moment. But when I was 5 years old, and I mentioned this on my last recording, the one I just did this past Sunday, I was 5 years old when I accepted my call. And it was through a song that we sang in Vacation Bible School called a sunbeam. That's why I refer to myself, instead of a light worker or a ray of light, I refer to myself as a sunbeam, because the song said, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam to shine for him each day. In every way, try to please him at home, at school, at play. A sunbeam, I'll be a sunbeam for him. And I sang that with such fervor and with such, like, I loved that song. And what I didn't know is that was the part of me that I didn't realize. That was the subconscious part of me accepting the assignment that I came in here for, to be a light in the earth. And while I have shown in different ways, through my work as an author, as an actor, in radio, etc., I believe this moment right here is the most crucial moment that anybody on this planet will experience. Like that, all of humanity, we have these times about every 2,000 years that all of humanity, the earth, goes through a rebirthing. And so it's such a wonderful time to be alive, but it's also a time that if you are here and you feel a calling, you feel something that you really want to do, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That there's a book you want to write, there's a poem you want to write, there's a song you want to sing. That energy is coming up in you because the earth needs it right now. So just let me be an encouragement. Let me be your cheerleader. Let me be your light coach, to tune in and turn on that light in you, because we are the light that is going to chase away the entities that would try to plunge this world into further darkness.
Books. Listen, I want to put up. I asked you to give me a something like a conglomerate, if you will, an aggregate of your books.
Yes.
And so I was able to put them both together. I don't know if you see that.
Oh, I love it.
So we see from the very top. What is that? Sex in the I
Sex
can't.
in the Sanctuary. Yes. Yes, girl.
Okay, and then what's this? Love like Hallelujah.
Yes. A
Peach.
Preacher's Passion.
Uh-huh.
There's actually 9 books and counting in the Hallelujah series. Those first 3 at the top are in order. And then there's a book called Heaven Right Here. And then the book that you have that you're getting ready to hold up is
Yeah.
Reverend Feelgood. That was book number 5, but there's a total of 9 in the Hallelujah series. And then I also have a business trilogy. And those are the 2 books you see at the bottom. There's actually 3 total, All Up in My Business,
Nice.
Mind Your Own Business, and Taking Care of Business. And then I have a trilogy of suspense, a suspense trilogy called the Shady Sisters trilogy. And the book that you see at the bottom right is the first book in that series called A Perfect Affair. And I just got an email from my publisher today letting me know that some of these books are going on sale starting tomorrow, the ebook version on Kindle. I don't know if it's also going to be on Barnes and Noble for my Nook fans, but definitely on Kindle. And I would imagine across ebook platforms. Several of those books are going to be going on sale for $1.99. So get in now and grab them because they are fire.
Yeah. So I want it now. The fact is that, I'm going to ask you to just, you have your sunglasses?
Oh, well, let me tell you this, Dr. G. Zuri and I never appear at the same time.
Oh, I was going to ask you to go get her. I was actually going to see if you would go and get her.
You
Tell her
gonna
to
see?
tell her to
Oh,
take over for 5 minutes or so until you go to
okay,
the
so
camera.
okay, hold on. Let me see if she's busy because
But
she's full of attitude. So let me see if she's here.
okay, yeah.
I'll be
So
right back.
all right, yeah. So she's going to go and see if Zuri, if you can see that the books on the right are written by Zuri Day. So Letitia's written the books that you see on the left, the 369 you see on the left, but the books on the right were written by this other sister by the name of Zuri Day. So we're hoping if she's available, is she is oh did you are you there, Zuri?
Hold on, girl.
Oh, oh, okay. I didn't want to. I sorry to bother you, but can you just give us a few minutes of your time?
I only have like a minute or two. Yeah, I can give it to you. What you want, girl?
So Zuri, I wanted, well, we just had Lutishia on, and of course she was giving
You
her.
know that girl always trying to get me into stuff. She know I don't like interviewing and talking to people. Nothing, no shade, sister. No shade to you at all. But I don't like doing all of this public thing. I like to write and I like to be with my black man and have my black love. But anyway, what you want, girl?
Well, well, I just wanted to know a little bit about, how's your day? How was your day going for one? I mean, did you have a good day?
Girl, my day is going amazing. I like to just hang out and chill. I'm very much an introvert. I write about black love and I put it out there. And then I normally leave Lutishia Lovely to do all of this kind of public relations and stuff like that because I don't have the kind of time to be doing all that kind of stuff, girl. But my day is going good. My books are all fire. It's about wonderful men and women and relationships that we go through and not all a bunch of fluffy stuff. We talk about real life issues, girl. But one thing I like about my books is always a happily ever after because we have enough drama and enough stuff going on in the world that every now and then we need to have just something that to make us feel good. You know what I'm saying, girl?
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. Well, listen, I mean, because you and Letitia have you don't work as close together as folks would like. I mean, and your personality is just like totally like, what can I say about your person? What can you say about your personality?
I don't know.
Well, you don't know. Well, I mean, the books. I mean, you sort of make the same kind of romance thing, but you have a sort of like a different spin on the way you write versus how Letitia writes. Why?
Absolutely. Well, I don't really know. You have to ask. And don't get me wrong. I love the girl. I love Letitia. She cool and all. We work together a lot, as a matter of fact. It's just that she's more out there. She's more extroverted and want to talk to all people and want to be all social and want to be all on a YouTube and I can do that sometimes, but not very often. And definitely, I don't like to just be like put into I don't like to be just put on the spot like this. So she know this. So I came for a minute because she said that it was a really special moment and that she had told you a lot about me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to come and do it. But that's why. But the difference between my books, she writes about relationships too, but I think her books are more about drama and stuff like that. And my books, they may have a little drama in it, but at the end, it's going to be all about one love.
Okay. Well, I know you did. You were pulled out of whatever you were doing, and I appreciate it. So don't let.
Yes, girl, I gotta go back. I was actually cooking me up some nice Caribbean food, some Jamaican food, girl. I was cooking me some spinach patties, so I'm getting ready to go back to that, girl.
Okay. Well, listen. I thank Lutishia. I would thank Lutishia for getting you to come on. I appreciate it. Maybe one day I can have you come and talk about your books and so forth.
Girl, I don't know about that. Like I said, maybe we have to plant it in advance. How's that?
Okay.
Maybe you come over to Jamaica. We can have to interview there.
Oh, I'd love that.
All right, girl. All right. Well, thank you so much. Okay, I gotta go, girl.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Zuri. Listen, y'all. Thank you for that segue. Listen, I wanted to share this. This is just a little PSA, something I just found out. So I just found this out, and so this is an important announcement. Somebody brought this to my attention. Let me see if I can take this down so you can see. Hope y'all see this. Yeah, because somebody has had the nerve to create a Cash App. If you go, Sister Lutishia, Dr. G, office hours, $ reawakening minds. That's not my account, y'all. And so somebody sent me this to say, which one of these is yours? This one is ours, this correct one, $ reawaken. But I just want whoever who created this one to know that you have been reported to Cash App, and they're now investigating you. This is they use my logo for House of Real Awakening Eyes, my name, and created a very similar Cash App. This is not my Cash App. This is not the House of Real Awakening Minds Cash App. It's this one up here that says $ reawaken. So I just wanted to throw that in just so in case anybody was wondering. Isn't that something that somebody
Girl,
would take?
Someone created a Lutishia Cash App too. I don't know if their name is really Lutishia, but very few Lutishias are spelled like my Lutishia. I was named after my great grandmother. There's a lot of that going on, girl.
Well, this one, it's one thing to put a name, but they use my logo.
Yeah,
and
that was straight up.
House of Real. I'm like, who is that?
That's straight up fraud.
That's straight up fraud because that's the house that little street sign is House of Real Awakening Minds. That Dr. G House of Real, that's me. So just wanted to let you all know that
there's a lot of that going on.
People are treacherous.
They are treacherous out here in these digital streets.
Absolutely.
Listen, my apologies for Zuri. She always has attitudes. My apologies for her. I'm surprised she even came on, but that's my girl. I love her at the end of the day. She has her way, but hopefully she was able to answer some of your questions and stuff.
I appreciate her coming and Jamaican food. I would love to come over to Jamaica and be interviewed.
She does it up right over there, girl.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, listen, let's get back. So let's talk about your light coaching. If someone, how do you provide that service?
Well, I do it virtually most of all. First of all, it started, I've been a light coach for a very long time. Again, most of what we do naturally and what our gift is normally what we're supposed to do. So I'm always the type of person that kind of lights up the room, and that's not said in a conceited way or an arrogant way, but it's like when you know who you are, you just walk in and things just change. Or I would know something about a person, like you said, being intuitive, and I would just start telling them about a situation or what have you. Or I would make people feel better, or I would talk to them about their purpose or about their dreams or about whatever spirit would be given me about them. So I was actually life coaching before I called it that, right? And then several years ago, I would be at different conferences, and by then I had started practicing Reiki, or even deeper, what I'm practicing now or what I'm studying now is Sekhem, which is the mother of Reiki. Sekhem comes out of Kemet, and then Reiki is the more known energy healing modality from Sekhem. But I started doing that, and I would be at book conferences, and people would have an ache or pain or what have you, and I would start doing the Reiki healing, and they would actually heal. And so it kind of grew organically that I would offer people advice. People would have, again, it would be something, and I just kind of naturally do it. Like, I feel, spirit is telling me, blah, 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 and they be like, oh, girl, that is right on, and da, 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 da. So then I realized, and there wasn't really like a moment, unlike a lot of the lines of demarcation that I talked about earlier, but it just was kind of a natural progression that people would say, well, can we talk about such and such? And so about 5 years ago, I decided to add it to my website. I've changed my website since then, but I actually had a place on there, and I may still have a part of it on this website, where if a person wants light coaching or wants I think it's motivational speaking or whatever, then I would do that. So I would do motivational speaking. And even when I would be at these literary conferences and I would be trying to talk about book marketing or how to get your promotion right or how to write the right plot or the right theme, I would end up sharing a personal story, whether it be about faith or whether it be about visualization or whether it be about co-creating. Because my whole thing is about being a co-creator with the Most High. My very first Hotmail account was I co-create at hotmail.com. That was hot, how long ago, even though still a few people still have Hotmail, but I think that was like my very first email was Hotmail, and it was I co-create at hotmail.com. So I've always been a co-creator, and I started sharing that. And I remember this author came up to me after I had finished sharing how I co-created becoming a traditionally published author in a way that I later heard was supposed to be impossible to do. And it was like, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't know that before I co-created the situation. But anyway, he came up to me afterwards and he said, that's what you should be talking about. He said, your marketing advice and stuff. And he said, that's all good. He said, but that story you shared at the end, he said, that's what you should be talking about. And that's what kind of led me into the journey of sharing more of my tips on co-creating, on visualization, on affirmations, on meditation and things like that. And then I kind of made it official with my cards. I would put, author, motivational speaker, it just kind of grew out of that. And then it began in earnest around 2018, 2017, when those of us light workers really felt the rumblings of the world about to change. And that's when spirit really started tugging on me that I needed to share my story about religion, about spirituality, about the differences. And I was very hesitant. Again, that's when I started saying, oh, well, I'll do that. But as soon as I get all my little eggs in a row and ducks in a row and stuff like that, but I started doing it on an individual basis, with people who I knew or people who would hear about me from someone and ask about it. And I would just do consultations by phone. I did a couple by Zoom, but most of them I just did, by phone. And that's how we do it.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I have your email addresses and I even put Zuri's out there. But then I put your website there, which is lutishialovely.com. So that's where anybody can reach out and contact you for.
Absolutely, for both the light coaching, and definitely go there for all of my novels. In fact, the one that I didn't put on there, my very late, well, the latest is like a year, been a year now, but it's this one, Blind Ambition. And this one is pretty cool because it's a sister story. It's a sister story. And so anybody who has siblings, will really, really enjoy this. A sister who's like maybe 10 years or even more, about 15 years older than the younger sister, and how they didn't have a relationship because they didn't know each other, and what happens to bring about them having a relationship, and then the secrets that spill out, because anybody who's got a family knows that every family has secrets. That is what the journey in this book is about. So thank you. So yes, Lutishia Lovely. Or
I'm getting ready to speak something over. Where'd that go? I'm getting ready to speak something because it just dropped in my spirit as you when you put that book there. That I'm just decreeing that if it has not already happened, that at least one of your books is going to be made into a movie. That they're doing a lot of those movies now with the sisters. I mean, Harlem and all the different ones, and I could very well see your book with S, any of your books becoming a movie. Have you considered or have you been approached
Honey, every single book I've ever written. In fact, I am shocked that I don't have like 40 movies out right now. Because my background is as an actor, but it's Hollywood's an interesting industry. But I receive what you're saying, and absolutely, you will see movies that are taken from not only my book, but especially a lot of Zuri Days, because they really work with the real quick 90-minute or made for TV kind of movies. Her storylines would play really, really easy into that format. So thank you so much for your gift of prophecy and of intuitiveness. I receive it, sister.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited, like I said, honored to know that I know you, and and that we can pick up the phone and chat with one another and so forth. And I saw a couple of comments about the ease at which this interview is. I try to be like that with everyone, but there are certain people that I just connect with, and when I connect, I not disconnect. I connect with. It sounds like I said just, but it sounds like this. But people that I connect with. And it's just like it is a conversation, you know what I mean? And I like interviews that are conversations. And I also like the fact that, I don't have to pull anything out of you because you know how to talk, right?
Girl, that's why I kept telling myself before coming on, focus, because there's so many directions I can go with whatever topic. Like, I don't even know what time it is, how much time we have left, but
we got about 22 minutes.
Well, then I won't even get started, but I won't even get started. But there's just a lot going on. I'll say it like that.
Well, again, for the viewers, to be encouraged from a standpoint of, like you said, maybe there's writers out there or creative people who have things that they've just been kind of sitting on. What I heard you say is that now is the time, that the time of manifestation and actualization of things that you're visualizing. I mean writing it down, like it was weird. And it's downstairs, but I got an envelope in the mail, I want to say like Saturday or something, and it was a thin, I didn't know what was in it, and I didn't pay attention to the handwriting on the envelope, but it was my name, my appellation, and my address, and so forth. And so when I opened it up, it was a single piece of paper, and it was all these things, and it was like, paying off the dead pledge of House of Reawakening Minds, and doing this and increasing. It was on two sides of the paper, and I was like, well, who wrote this stuff? And then I looked at it close, and it literally was my handwriting in an envelope with no return address from Jen. I did not send that thing to myself. In January. I don't know when I wrote that, but it came to me in the mail Saturday. And I had to look at it. I said, that's my handwriting. And then I looked at the two-sided paper with all this stuff. I've got to go back down and read it because I need to see if any of this stuff is coming. But it was like, first I thought somebody sent it to me.
Yeah.
And then I realized I sent it to me. But I don't remember sending that.
That's the time we're in. That's the time we're in. We are alchemists, lovelies. We are creators. That's what we are. That's what we do. And we are extremely powerful. And now our superpowers are being reactivated as our DNA. And that's a whole nother video. But as our DNA is being activated, get some sun, get as much sun as you can. That is turning on the superpowers that are within us. So that's why the co-creates are happening real fast. I wanted to say before we get off, for those of you who are wanting light coaching, where I can tune in and turn on the light in you, it's not about me teaching you who you are. It's about you remembering who you are and why you're here. You can reach out to me directly through Gmail at lutishialovely@gmail.com. That will reach me a little faster than going through my website because sometimes my assistant works with that stuff. So if you want to do the light coaching, reach out to me directly at lutishialovely@gmail.com. Okay. But definitely, girl, this is what season we're in. Please guard your thoughts. Guard your thoughts like you guard your money. Okay? Because they are creating, and they can create light, or they can create good things, or they can create very challenging things. Be intentional with your thoughts. Visualize. Take about 5 minutes before you go to sleep, 5 minutes before you jump out of bed, and visualize how you want your day to go. Write those things down, just like that letter that Dr. G got back that she wrote and don't remember. Write it down. There is there's a statement that Dr. B. Serious said in a workshop I did of his recently, where he said, "Think in ink," and I love that. Think in ink, meaning write it down, because there's magic. English is a language of spells, and we can use those spells for good or not. And again, that's a whole other conversation. But think in ink. Write that dream down. It doesn't have to be a book. It can just be a sentence. It can just be a page. But write that thought down. Write down what you want to do, and then take the first step. It can be a teeny tiny step, like just writing it down. But take that step, because now is the time. We're in a magical moment, lovelies. Don't let it pass you by.
Yeah, it was funny you saying that. I don't know, I didn't put a date on his, but one day about a week or so ago, and I'm pulling this out here, I woke up early in the morning and I was thinking of something in my dream. And so I said, for some reason, I said, let me run and write it down. So I ran down here to the office and I wrote House of Real Awakening Minds. I guess it had to do with the website, because otherwise, but I wrote community down. I wrote, we're stronger together. Let's build something lasting. Join us. Marketplace, market share, village market, upcoming. I had thoughts about the website that's being worked on by, our sister out in California. And I just said, oh, let me write these things down, because a lot of times you forget.
Yes.
And back, I took a class, I want to say in the 90s, with SMS. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I went out to Texas, Waco, Texas, to a SMS workshop, and I was going to be one of their.
I can't remember, what does it stand for?
Success,
something
success, something.
I can't even remember, but yes, SMS. I do. I remember that phase. Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I learned when I was there at that workshop had to do with crystallizing your thinking. Basically, which is what you were saying, think in ink, that Dr. Visiri said. So you have to use the various, you see it, but you write it and you say it. Yes. So reading it, writing it, seeing it are three. You need like all three they called it crystallization of thinking. Yes. And then they begin to show, just how we are, we can be influenced, if you will, and people are shaped and influenced by somebody else knowing how to shape and influence people. The example they give is that if you put a strong rope around the ankle of a baby elephant and tie it to say an oak tree. The baby elephant will naturally try to get away from it, but if the rope is strong enough and the tree is strong enough, as try as it might, it won't be able to get away. If that happens over a period of time, what they say happens is you could put a string around that elephant's ankle and tie it to a palm tree, and it won't go anywhere because it's
And that
already conditioned to. And which is, I think, some of the things, if you think in terms of us as a people, we had the strong rope, if you will, on our ancestors, if it's sort of from a standpoint of things that happened to them, and then after that you don't have to worry about it because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, generation after generation after
it's the whole
generation.
world. It's the whole
Right,
world, Dr. G. That's how brainwashing, if that's called mind control. That
right,
is how the matrix was created. That
absolutely.
is how the illusion is created. And it's and the difference is it's not a physical rope, it's a mental rope through our education, through our government, through the music we're listening to, through what we're watching on the tell lie vision that's telling a lie to our vision. It's all sorcery and witchcraft. It's a very deep thing. Like I said, that's a whole nother video.
Word magic.
There's a lot going on. But the thing that I want the lovelies listening to take away is that you are the power. You are a magical, creative being who can literally manifest the life that you want. You just have to take the first step. You have to believe that you can do it. And saying it is also very important, and saying it as though it is already done. So I am whatever you're wanting to be. And that is how you manifest it. That's how I got a book deal. I had no doubts in my mind when I went to New York. I was going to walk in there and get a book deal. And like, that was actually like impossible. I later learned. I didn't know at the time because I didn't know anything about publishing, but I literally read an article later that everything I did when I went to New York was what the absolute thing you weren't supposed to do. But that was even at a different time. Now we're at a time of magic. So I just send love and light to all of those who are listening, to all of your dreams. I attach my attention to yours because you're going to manifest it. And if you need a little help, you need a little encouragement, reach out to a sister because I'm here to help. I'm here to be of service. That's my purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And you all make sure you go and please, please, please subscribe to Lovely Life
Yes.
TV. Please subscribe to her, to Sister Lutishia's channel. I mean, I think you have committed to doing a was it a weekly segment or
yes, I have a weekly service called the Church of Lovely. It's Lovely Life TV, and you might have to put in Lutishia Lovely, because there's a couple of lovely lives, and because I literally just started, I think I've just finished my 6th episode. So my algorithm, I said on my video that not only do I not have an algorithm, I don't hardly have a rhythm at this point. But please subscribe, because right now I'm doing a powerful series called The Second Coming of Christ and Why Most Christians Will Miss It. And so I'm talking in detail about going from the illusion to enlightenment. Another reason why what I'm doing and what other light workers are doing are so important, because if you're stuck in the illusion, you are going to miss this great awakening. You are going to miss this great enlightenment. You are going to miss this amazing new earth that is being birthed right now. Some of us are in it. I'm in it right now. I mean, you kind of go in and out of it because it's a spiritual earth. It's being in the world, but not of it. It's a spiritual earth. So you have to be spiritually in tune. Your first eye has to be open, the eye of your understanding. You have to have an ear to hear, because what you're hearing in the media is a medium to distract you from the divinity that has always been within you and that is rising up even faster for you to go even farther, quicker. Okay, so definitely go over there. That's a powerful series that Dr. G, I wasn't planning on doing that series for months, because who wants to tackle Jesus? Child, ain't nobody trying to take Jesus away
Well,
from
what I love about your productions is that she's actually produced it the production. I haven't seen you on there. Your voices, you're doing the voiceovers, but
Yeah.
it's actually a beautifully produced series and with graphics and videos and so forth. So you're not just listening, to someone speaking, but you're actually putting up examples and so forth. It's very professionally done, you all. So please, follow my sister. Y'all know that I pride myself now that when folks come on this platform, wherever they were, our mission is to help you go further to where you're trying, to get to. So, I
Yes.
mean, if you're seeing this now, or if you're seeing this, next week or whenever, please go over to Lovely Life TV, and like I said, put in Lutishia Lovely also, so that you can make sure that you can distinguish her channel from the others who have similar names. So, but you will be pleasantly surprised, and you will enjoy what's been put there so far. And I'm sure if you see once you see more folks are waiting for the next segment, you're gonna have to stay on your grind with that and making sure you get. I think you said 52, so it's one a
Yeah,
week.
they're going to be 52. And as I get my feet wet, I do have other things I want to talk about on YouTube. I want to have motivational moments that I want to post. I want to post some of my meditations. I mean, there's more that I want to do, but it's a lot of work. I do that production. That's another, not only one of my gifts, but it's my training. It's a passion. Like writing is one type of creativity, and sometimes to unwind, I do the production because that's fun creativity for me. But it takes a lot of work. So that's why I'm only able to do one show a week, because I just want to commit to being consistent with that. But as I get my feet wet and get my rhythm with that, then I will do different things, and eventually one day actually go live. And because there's a lot to talk about, and we are at such a critical time, and
Yeah,
we're in the quickening, so every day things are happening, and it's just crazy. And it just behooves everybody to wake up. And there are people waking up, Dr. G, which is why I had to come out, because
right.
people are looking for us. People are confused. People are wanting to know what's going on. I didn't watch the Grammys, but I understand that there's a big hoopla around Kirk Franklin, something that happened to him. I'll have to come on YouTube and find out what it was. But
Wow.
he's supposed to be doing some kind of interview or some kind of message tonight to explain whatever happened at the Grammys. So Christians and churchgoers are being confused. People are leaving the church, and the Black church, in droves. There's one, see, now we're in the time of internet and all of that. There's one drama after another. There's one scandal after another. And also, please read the Hallelujah series. That is the book that Sister G held up, because a lot of it is in there. All of that. I tell people that no, those weren't based on very specific incidents. And then again, I say the names have been changed to protect the guilty, because just about everything that I write about, I actually witnessed. Okay, but that will also give you a place to kind of start making that separation. And it's not easy. And for those who are in Christianity and are enjoying it, love and light to you, I'm not here to convict, convert, convince, or take you away from something. I'm here for those who are feeling as I did 20 plus years ago, where you're having questions, where spirit is speaking to you, but what you're hearing is not what the pastor is saying. So you're rebuking that devil in the name of Jesus, like I did when spirit was telling me who I was. I'm here to be a light and to be of service, and let you know that that is the Most High that you're hearing, and you're being brought out of the darkness and into the light, so that you can step into this new earth, this age of enlightenment, this age of Aquarius that we're at, is starting the reign of 1,000 years of light and peace. So please get, and now the books are on sale. Again, the ebooks are on sale. Go to lutishialovely.com for more information on that. Go to Lovely Life TV, and I know I'm a light coach, but I created it as Lovely Light, and I'm like, girl, why didn't you call it Lovely Light? So I might change it, but we'll see. But anyway, I know, because I was so like, okay, let me just be obedient and get it up. So I created it as Lovely Life TV, but I really might change it to Lovely Light. So I'm a light coach, duh. But anyway, but do that, and then reach out to me directly at lutishialovely@gmail.com.
Well, wow. So this has been wonderful. Y'all, thank you all for, for hanging in there. I know sometimes they looking for, nationality and birthright stuff, but there's a broad spectrum of who we are and what we present. And our sister is just as aware and of her birthright and nationality as the next person.
Absolutely. Shout out to my indigenous great grandparents. I come through the Mississippi line. I need to talk to you, Rod Hayes. That's another brother that I love seeing on your show. Rod Hayes, I have reached out to you on Facebook, brother, because I need to know about those Mississippians plans. I know you know about Mississippi, and because that's where my great grandpa on my daddy's side is from. And I need to know about that Arkansas clan. That's my roots. That's a whole nother story I want to talk with you, Dr. G, about more that I'm doing in Arkansas, going back to our land. And my mama's side is from South Carolina. So shout out to the indigenous tribe. Shout out to Dane Calloway for helping to wake us up. This is what I mean, you guys, but you have to come out of the illusion to even get this. You have to come out of the illusion for this information to even reach you, to know that this is our, as Rod Hayes would say, this our ish. This is our ish up in here. And you can't even try to claim something that you don't even know is yours.
That's true. That's true.
That's why you have to wake up. That's why you have to come out of the illusion, because if you don't, somebody else is going to claim your paradise.
That's true. That is so true. But speaking of Rod, just to let you all know, I know I mentioned that he would be on this Friday doing a special. He will not be on this Friday, obviously. His sister transitioned last week, and the homegoing service is going to be on Friday and Saturday. So the next time you see Rod, but he won't be teaching on this platform, will be on the 14th, because he is one that's coming on for Grand Chic celebration. But on the 21st, on the Tuesday the 21st, so 2 Tuesdays from today, Rod will be doing one of the unfiltered workshops. We will get the link up to you so that you can register for that one. It will definitely not be on YouTube, but it will be on, I believe it's called Creating a Q&A on Creating Tribal Governments. And so that's coming up on the 21st. On the 14th, of course, we will be celebrating Grand Chic's 78th solar return. Isn't that exciting? 78. He'll be 78 on the 14th. So that's going to be his actual solar return on that date. And the link, I just put it in the chat. Please click on that link and keep it, put it, save it till the 14th, next Tuesday, and we will be celebrating Grand Chic. And I'm looking for, one or two of you all to come on, some of the ones that are always our guests that are on, not our guests, but I want to call them the kinfolk in the comment section.
Yeah.
Come on next Tuesday. So I'm going to give some of y'all a chance to, I'm going to give the link and for a few of you all to come, but you can't stay on. You get to come on and say,
how we are.
Yeah, kind words to Grand Chic, and then you got to, give somebody else a chance. So we do have some guests actually coming, one of which is Brother Rod Hayes. And Sister Lutishia, maybe you might want to come on, and we're going to play music and have a good time, because we can't normally do that. But it just won't be on YouTube.
Well, I definitely plan to be at that, and definitely at the next tribal, the off YouTube thing that you do. I wanted to be at the last one, but I was editing. I was actually with a client in Sedona, Arizona, shaking ish up down there.
I'm trying to get to, me and my girl Cynthia Martin are planning to get to Sedona before.
You need to go. You need to go, because the ancestors there, girl, they are not playing. That's a whole other conversation. We got to get out. See, this is what happens when you meet a like spirit. But the experience I had there was amazing. And when I tell you those when they recognized me, the energies there, the mountains, there is a rock formation there called the Three Sisters, and baby, them sisters was talking to me. And when I went up, because I felt them, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it's a spiritual vortex there, and that is real. And I believe it's been activated even further because of the time we're in. And so we were going up, we were hiking. It was our last day. before leaving, and we had finished the book. And so we were going up the mountains, and I was feeling the indigenous, I was feeling my people. You know what I'm saying? And I was thinking, who owns this though? Because all I had seen were white folk for the most part. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. It was just it was old white people that have probably had that land forever. And nothing against white people, nothing against, but I'm just saying the original people are not there in as they were. And so I was like, who owns this? And before I could even get the thought out, Dr. G, I saw the sign about the Catholic Church.
Mm.
And if you know anything about the Vatican and the history of them and the land being removed from indigenous tribes, then you'll understand why the three sisters are very upset that they have set up shop in the womb of this spiritual vortex. They've set up a building there where they conduct rituals and mass or whatever they do. And nothing against Catholics. I don't want, it's not about, you know, you and how you're serving, but it's about the root. A lot of times we're involved in organizations and we don't know what's going on at the root. That's what's happening with Christianity. That's what's happening with this series From Illusion to Enlightenment. When you learn the history of Christianity, why Christianity was created, you guys, it was created as a military operation. It didn't have nothing to do with your soul.
That's right.
Well, it did, but not in the way you're thinking.
Yeah, I tell them, I said our ancestors became Christian at the tip of a sword.
Exactly. But it was so egregious. You could feel. So definitely go to Sedona. They could use your energy, and you'll feel it when you get there in those mountains. But they were so grieved at this ritual that was going on to try to keep that mountain. But let me tell you something. Let me speak something. Let me co-create something on this channel up off in here right now.
Go ahead with
They're coming off that mountain. They're off that mountain. That's getting ready to be an information center about the indigenous people of that land. They're coming off that mountain. Now, it took everything for me not to turn into that Jesus that threw the money changers out the church, because I was like, I just didn't want to go to jail. But I wanted to go in there and just disrupt that, because the energy was so strong from the ancestors. Anyway, go.
Yeah,
we gotta use more energy like you.
We said that's on the bucket list for this year to go to Sedona. So
well, let me know. I might join you there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go up and shake some ish up. We'll throw it out there for the Sisters of War and see if we have a war meeting at Sedona. See who wants.
That would be a perfect place. The energy there is powerful.
Absolutely. Listen, y'all, we have had a good time tonight. Please make sure you like and share this video. Please make sure you go to our sister Lutishia's site. I'm giving you here all her information, her YouTube channel, Lovely Life TV, Lutishia, excuse me, Lovely. If you want light coaching, then here's her email, LutishiaLovely@gmail.com, or her website, LutishiaLovely.com. So I've given you everything. Make sure.
And if you go to LutishiaLovely.com, you could actually reach me through there too. You know, that event, but it just hits my Gmail later because it goes through the website. So,
well, Lutishia, I hope that you can. We'll talk about it offline, but maybe you could come next month for my 68th solar return celebration. And
I would love it.
Yeah. So if you can get your way down here, and y'all, it's coming out soon. We'll put the flyer up. I think I created it today, but I'm waiting for the other folks that are really involved to, say yay or nay, and then, we will proceed. We're trying to get that work done at the building.
Well, let's talk. I would love to.
Listen, thank you so much. Again, thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all. Y'all know I appreciate y'all because you're here week after week. And I will be back on next Tuesday. Yeah, we're off this Friday. back. We will celebrate our grand chic. So, if you want to, in the meantime, our connection, these PayPal, get the right, and the Cash App, please get the right one here, just from the bottom. If you want to send grand chic anything, now would be the time to do that. Hopefully between now and the 14th, we want to have a good time, and we want to show him that we love him. We want to show him that we appreciate him. We know not everybody loves and appreciates him, but for all of those of you who do, and you know who you are, this is, of course, your opportunity to be a part. And so with that, I am going to say a good night. How about that?
Love and light. Thank you so much, Dr. G. I so appreciate you. Your work matters. Your work is so important. It's reaching so many people. I've learned so much from your show. It is an honor to be here. Thank you. And that's why I would love to come hang out with you next month and to celebrate your solar return. So thank you so much. Reawakening Minds.
Yeah, they can come too. Yeah.
And Reawakening Minds family, thank you for not leaving, because y'all probably are like, who is this Lutishia Lovely? And is she gonna be talking about my land? Is she gonna be talking about how I can get up out this system? So thank you so much. I'm one of you. I listen to this, I listen and learn here all the time. So being on here is an honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I appreciate you. Love you. All righty, y'all. Thank you. Yeah, that's me.